Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Red.head.med. This week we're going to go over what my study schedule was for step 2, so stay tuned. Alright, so in terms of dedicated for step 2, I didn't really have a proper dedicated just because I was doing 2 away clerkships for emergency medicine because we don't have a home program, so yeah, I had to do 2. And it was during the first month of my away where I was like, yeah, I can't study just because I had to take the national, I think it was the SAEM test for emergency medicine, and I had to do like 500 practice questions and whatnot, so I just did not have time to do a step 2 dedicated. But when I did my second away in LA, I decided that I had to actually start studying for step 2 if I wanted to take it by like late October. And so what I did every day at the beginning is that I woke up at like 5 in the morning and knocked out like 2 blocks and then like reviewed them and then went to my shift. And then from there, I think like 3 weeks in to the rotation, that's when I decided to pick it up and give myself time to do 3 blocks, just because the way that my schedule was for my away, I was front loaded heavily, and then like towards the end of it I had a lot of free time to do what I needed to do. And then I think 3 weeks into kind of like this like 2 blocks per day dedicated is when I took my first assessment, and I bought the old MBMEs because they just changed step 2. So I had versions, I think it was 8 and 7 or maybe 7 and 6. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I took that. I made sure to get a baseline, and then my baseline was a passing score. So I was like, okay, like let me continue studying. And I just did questions for the most part at the beginning because I was like, yeah, I'll do like the resources kind of like when I actually have like a little bit more free time. And so yeah, I did questions, and then like every week I would do like a practice MBME. So in total I did 3 practice MBMEs. I did one of the new ones like 2 weeks before my exam, and then I did the 2 UWorld assessments that come with your UWorld subscriptions, and then free 120. And that's all I did in terms of practice exams. The way that I would suggest doing them is either doing them like every week or every 2 weeks. It really depends on your dedicated. Like I said, I didn't really have just a dedicated where I had nothing else to do but step 2 studying. Like I was in clerkships like most people tend to be in. And then in terms of like material wise, like things that I studied, I watched videos from Divine Intervention, Dr. High Yield, and then I also did Randy Neal videos for ethics questions, or like get for the ethics questions. And then I also studied from Amboss's ethics articles, which has question sets available in regards to ethics, just because from what I've heard and seen in the new curriculum for the step 2 exam is that there's a lot of ethics questions, and not just ethics questions but also like hospital management scenarios that are like, oh, like this person made this mistake, like how do you handle this? A lot of things that they really don't teach you on UWorld. Like UWorld tries to cover it, but it's not as helpful. And then just like a lot of common sense questions that aren't so like common sense wise. So also going back to the UWorld bank, so I was doing 3 blocks a day. I decided to switch from timed mode to tutor mode just because like time is usually not a problem for me during these board exams. I tend to actually finish each block with like 5 minutes to spare. And so yeah, I switched to tutor mode, and then I saw that my scores were improving, and in total I only finished about like maybe 80% of the bank. And my average for it was like a 66%. Like it was not like the highest that it could have been, just because I like messed up in the beginning, especially like waking up at like 5 in the morning, because I am not a morning person at all, as I always say. And yeah, I've never like really had to wake up that early just to like start studying. So I was like really waking up at 4 to do my block by 5, to finish by 7, to make it to my shift, which was like at 9. And also what made dedicated hard is that our residency applications are due September 29th. So I was also, in the meantime, while doing dedicated, while doing my audition rotation, also preparing my like personal statements, letters of recs, supplementary applications, and like whatnot for programs. And yeah, it just got really overwhelming after a while. Luckily, like after September 29th, I feel like is when I was able to kind of really concentrate on my exam. And I took my exam October 19th. And I think that for me, it was about like a 7-week or a 6-week dedicated, like semi-dedicated period that I had. And I think that was more than enough time, especially considering that I passed all my clerkship shelves on a first attempt. I think that if I had struggled during the clerkships, I would have pushed back my step 2 even further back. But at the end of the day, I'm happy when I took it, because like, as you can tell, I'm like in my interview where like I am just getting ready for interview season and just trying to like just be done with everything. Also, my school has a requirement where we have to take it before December, and yeah, I'm hoping to be done with interviews by like December or January, and there's just no way that I could have squeezed this in. How I felt during the exam, it wasn't like that bad in my opinion, but it did feel weirder than step 1. At least with step 1, like you can kind of read like the last sentence of a question stem and then get most of the like what the question is asking for from there. But like with step 2, you don't really get that. You have to read like the entire stem and whatnot. I think like something that I found useful was kind of reading the answer choices before reading the stem, just to be like aware of like what I'm looking for. Like you have to kind of come in like open-minded and not anchor to a specific answer choice, which I think is kind of hard. And then something else that I noticed that divine intervention also mentions is that like with a lot of the questions for step 2, it's not kind of like give me like, for instance, like you might want like the answer to be like furosemide or something, like it's furosemide, but the question will be like a loop diuretic that works in like the loop of Henle, like very specific and not it's kind of like a divergent answer choice, I think is what he says. I don't remember. I haven't watched his podcast in like 2 months. But yeah. So just being really open-minded and being aware that like while there's an answer that might seem right, but is wrong, like don't pick that. Choose the one that's kind of like kind of more convoluted in the way that you interpret it. Like you're like, like could it be this one? Because I definitely know that it's not like spironolactone or something like that. Like I know that it's definitely furosemide, but I like it's hard to explain if you're not seeing a test question, but like it kind of makes sense. They're trying to trick you. Your friends at the NBME, as Divine says, are not your friends. Ever since getting my score, like I made my reaction video, I was feeling kind of down, but now I'm kind of like, I feel fine. I'm happy to have passed, especially like on a first attempt, just because it's a very difficult exam. Both step 1 and step 2 are very, very difficult, and I just don't think that people appreciate it. The struggle that goes with taking these exams. I feel like each year it gets harder and harder, and I'm very worried about the next generation of test takers who are going to be, the next generation of test takers. Step 1 is pass fail now, and then you have to rely on all your stats being concerned kind of with like step 2. And I feel like the curve has gotten meaner since it's been like developed, if that makes sense. Like it's gonna be the harder of the 2 exams now, and now you have to put all your eggs in one basket, and I think that's kind of stressful and unfair to candidates. I think that they should have, as I've said in other videos, made both pass fail if they're really trying to like alleviate people's kind of like mental anxiety in regards to it. Or they could have just kept step 1 with a score, because now to leave everything on step 2, especially when most people take it after their 3rd years, right before their residency application is due, just doesn't make sense. The solution is either make all of them pass fail, make some type of statement that says that programs can't look at candidates with cutoff scores or something. Like there's really been no solution, and they've just created kind of a new problem. But yeah, comment below how you guys think that this change in step 1 and step 2 is gonna like affect you if you are gonna be taking it, especially if you're like an IMG student. Like I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments. Feel free to reach out to me if anybody needs even more helps or tips. I'm sorry that I didn't make like a PDF this time for dedicated. It's just that like my dedicated was all over the place this time, and I genuinely did not have like a structured schedule, if that makes sense. I just studied like when I could, when I had the time, and I'm glad that it's over with. I'm glad that I have the free time now to concentrate on my passions. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for again tuning in to another week of Red.head Med. I don't know what I want to cover next week, but maybe my research opportunities or just how to apply for VSAS or something. Let me know what you guys want to see next week. I'm open to suggestions. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a blessed week, and I'll see you later. Bye.